The January transfer window closes next Tuesday and we know league football next weekend is all about the FA Cup. I think we could see things getting a little bit interesting and really busy over the next 8 days or so, especially for those teams down at the bottom of the Premier League and Chelsea, of course. But saying that, they're playing like a team that deserves to be down the bottom of the Premier League at the moment, but they just love a transfer, don't they? And I'll tell you what, the way they're taking the mick out of FFP at the minute is very, very interesting. It wouldn't surprise me to see more clubs adopting that model from the summer onwards, and I wouldn't be against it with West Ham. Now, obviously, it depends on who you're signing. We can't go sign Danny Ings and stick him on a 7-year contract, right? I'm not saying that. But should we eventually adopt that Red Bull model that we keep talking about, I'm not against it. I think it's a very interesting thing Chelsea are doing. But anyway, welcome to the West Ham Transfer Rumour Show. So Scott McTominay is being tipped as one of the potential replacements for Declan Rice as he's getting stronger and stronger linked with a move to Arsnal in the summer. Terem Moffi, we are still interested in him, but Marseille have now joined the race for him. But apparently West Ham really want another striker between now and next Tuesday. So that'll be interesting. But this video is all about the centre-backs. Then we'll discuss the Scott McTominay thing. I'll stick that one on the end though. But the centre-backs for Craig Dawson, he obviously secured his move to Wolves, wrote a nice letter to West Ham fans. But who's going to come in and replace him? Now, first of all, I think we do need a centre-back, especially if we're going to be playing three at the back. We saw that formation against Everton, which was not unusual because we've seen it before, but what made it unusual was the fact that Moyes went for three traditional centre-backs. Usually Creswell's in there, or we've seen Ben Johnson in there. Usually there's a full-back playing in that back three, just for the dribbling aspect, for somebody a little bit more comfortable on the ball, somebody that's more likely to be doing those passes into centre midfield or out to the wing-backs, somebody that can maybe move forward. We see it with Aaron Creswell, where we push Emerson on and Creswell comes down behind him and uses that space that Emerson's provided for him. But when you've got a Gerd in there, whose distribution was fantastic against Everton. Oh, I stuck that long pass to Jared Bowen. I keep going on about it, but it was just beautiful. We could have a bit more of that, please, in future NAF. I'm really looking forward to seeing him. But we saw Gerd, Ogbonna and Zuma, and I just thought it was a bit of an interesting selection from David Moyes. He has options. He could have played Aaron Creswell, he could have played Ben Johnson, could have played Thilo Kehrer, who's a bit more comfortable on the ball and doesn't mind coming out the back, but he went for three traditional centre-backs, and I thought that was just an interesting move from Moyes. But if he wants to keep doing that, this isn't necessarily what I would like to see, but that's what he wants to do, fine. But I do think we need a centre-back. We need to get somebody else in. Now, the early noises weren't that bothered to replace Craig Dawson, but like I said, things have changed now. We played a back three, got a clean sheet in terms of XG against. I know people don't like it, but that was our second best performance at home this season. Only Bournemouth had lesser chances against us at the weekend. So centre-backs, who are they? Well, Michael Keane, you know my feelings on it. I'm just going to repeat it for the sake of it. But a couple of weeks ago, when this rumour first came out, I got a little bit worried because it's realistic, and it still is realistic. Now, it's changed a little bit because of the news today with Frank Lampard. Obviously, he's been sacked as manager of Everton, so that throws Keane's short-term future at Everton up in the air a little bit. Does the new manager want to use Michael Keane? I'm going to take a punt and say no, regardless of who comes in. Now, obviously, sometimes a new manager will come in and a player that's perhaps been sat on the sidelines for a little while gets an opportunity. But those Everton centre-backs are not bad players. The ones ahead of Michael Keane I'm discussing here, obviously. Connor Cody, Tarkowski, Yeremina, Ben Godfrey, they're all better than Michael Keane. I'd maybe even put Holgate ahead of him as well. So I think he'll still find himself further down the pecking order. The only difference is, at least Frank Lampard was playing with three centre-backs recently. The new manager may go to a back four. There's even less chance for Michael Keane. So regardless of who comes in, I can see Keane leaving in January. Now, the reports today suggest that actually there was a bit of a fallout between Lampard and some of the players after the Southampton defeat last Saturday at Goodison Park, Decore being one of them. But Michael Keane was allegedly another, and he's unhappy and wants to move to West Ham. Now, the other club that was linked to Michael Keane strongly was Southampton, but they look like they've given up with him because they've just recalled Jan Bednarek from his loan at Aston Villa. So that's their centre-back sorted. They just recalled their own centre-back. That's their squad depth there, which almost frees up West Ham to have a clear run at Michael Keane. Now, I'm not going to change my mind on him. I don't think he's a very good centre-back. And a lot of people will use Craig Dawson, ironically, the player that Keane would be replacing, as the example of why we shouldn't give up on a player, if you like. Well, that worked. The Dawson one worked, but you can't use that for every transfer going forward. You can't use Craig Dawson as an example as to why every transfer afterwards may work out. We will get plenty wrong. There'll be plenty of players we buy in future. I mean, there's been players since Craig Dawson we've bought and has left again, like Nikola Vlasic, because it didn't work out. There will be other players that we bring in that just don't do well, and we get the transfer wrong and move on. I think Michael Keane might be one of them. Nobody can convince me he's a really good defender. You know, he's still a decent age, and if we can get him on loan, it's a cheap option, and it sort of makes sense, I guess. It does give you that squad depth. He is homegrown. He's a player that we've been linked to in the past, and it's a player that we got offered when he was at Burnley before he went to Everton. Funnily enough, Michael Keane's another player that played under Sean Dyche at Burnley, so add him to Danny Ings. I mean, if Dyche was to come in and replace Moyes, at least he's got two of his former players at the club already, so he knows what he's doing with them ones. I'm just not sold on Keane, but like I said, I am worried. It makes sense. I say worried. Maybe a missed opportunity. I think there's better players out there. Well, let's discuss some of them. So Michael Keane, I think he's the one that's most likely, by the way. If I had to put money on which centre-back will join West Ham, it would be going on Michael Keane. Despite the manager change, I think we might go in for him. Now, next up is Nat Phillips from Goodison to Anfield, Liverpool centre-back. Now, obviously an injury to Van Dijk, but they've still got plenty of options at centre-back there. They've obviously got Matip, they've got Konate, Joe Gomez is there as well, so he's still, fourth choice, even with Van Dijk out injured as well. So Nat Phillips could easily be on his way. Again, another player we have been linked to in the past. I've not seen loads of him just because of his lack of opportunities at Liverpool. When I've seen him play, he looks okay, but you don't have to do that much defending when you play for Liverpool. The defending you do for Liverpool is a lot different to the demands that you're going to get from West Ham. But the one thing I will say is, if you're a centre back and you're just half decent at your trade, doing the basics, the heading, the blocking, the positioning, the interceptions, marking your man. I mean, he is tall. He's 6 foot something, massive. Anyways, I don't know how tall he is, 6'6" or something. As a centre back, you must relish playing for David Moyes, because you don't need to rely on your pace. You get to sit on your 18-yard line a bit, quite a lot. And this isn't me criticising David Moyes. I know a lot of people think it is not. It's just how we play. The second half against Everton, if you're a centre back, you must love playing in that game. It's just, I'll just stand here. That pacey striker can't expose me because there's no room to run in behind. It's hard to struggle as a centre back in a David Moyes' team, in my opinion. So I think, despite what I think about Keane, that's why he could possibly work out, and that's why I think Nat Phillips could possibly work out as well. But we've been linked to him. Now, somebody we haven't been linked to but could be on the move, and we've been linked to him loads in the past, is Adebayo of Fulham. Now, a bit of an interesting one, because when I've seen Fulham, they've played okay. I mean, they're doing fantastically well, don't get me wrong, this season. But I've always been a bit like, why is Adebayo not playing more often? At the minute, Issa Diop's ahead of him in the pecking order, and to be fair to Tim Ream, he's looking good. I think he's 35 years old. When Fulham come up and when they played their first game of the season, I thought there's no way they're still playing Tim Ream. He can't cope in the Premier League. Well, shows what I know about the centre backs, don't it? So take what I've said about Keane and forget it, because Tim Ream has had a really good season, but Diop is in the team ahead of Adebayo at the moment. Now, it's still been a successful transfer for Fulham. They signed him for a couple of million from Man City, a big part of the team that got them promoted. But he's only got 18 months to go in his contract. It was 6 months, but the club had an option for a further year, which they've activated. It sounds like he's refusing to sign a new contract, that he wants to leave. He's still only 25, he's homegrown as well, so he's ticking a lot of the boxes. And he will appeal to a lot of clubs. I'm surprised West Ham, haven't been linked to him yet, because I think he ticks a lot of the things we'd be looking for in a centre-back. Don't know how much he would cost. I've seen some Fulham fans say 10 million and that'll do, and I've seen some say 20 million. I'd imagine the truth lies somewhere in the middle of that, because, like I said, his contract situation, it looks more likely that a summer move is on the cards for Adebayo, unless Fulham can get somebody else in to allow him to leave. But it looks like he wants out. Being linked to Monaco at the minute as well. and basically I'm just talking about it because I predict we'll get linked to him in the next few days. But I've been more keen on the Adebayo one. Good pun there, Gio, with Keane. I didn't mean that, but I'll take it. But I've been more keen on Adebayo because I think there's more to come from him. He's only 25 years old. I think he's got a better future than Michael Keane or Nat Phillips if he can get in with the right manager. For whatever reason, he's just not really part of Marco Silva's plans. And if there's a Fulham fan watching this, I would genuinely be interested as to why Adebayo's not playing that often this season. Saying that, you don't need to tell me, just show me the league table. Say, there you go, look at the league table. That's why we're not changing anything at the minute. So his future is uncertain anyway, so he could be on his way out. And last up though, what I will say about the centre-backs, I'm not being convinced by the links to Harvey Suter, as you know, because of the money. I think he's a top talent. I think he can step up to the Premier League. Distribution is really good, really strong, really athletic. Had a fantastic World Cup for Australia as well. And I think, in terms of being the perfect centre-back for West Ham, I don't think you could go... I think you struggle to find a better one than Suter. Would he come to West Ham? Of course he would. You know, we're in the Premier League. Even if we got relegated, he'd still be a good signing for us now, because we now have a really good Championship. We'd have one of the best centre-backs in the Championship in the team for next season. He's somebody that you could have in the Championship next season. And I just think, you know, it would cost over 20 million to get him probably. But I think as an investment, I think it's a sound signing to make. And the difference between Suter and possibly the other three that I've mentioned is he'd probably come in and knock Ogbonna out the team. Would Michael Keane come in and take Ogbonna out the team straight away? I don't think so. Would Adebayo? Possibly. Nat Phillips? I don't think so. Would Suter? Yes, I do. I think he'd come straight in, bang, into that back three with Aguerd and Zuma and increase that distribution that we've got from the back with Aguerd. It would give us another option in there. It means you can move Zuma into the middle because he's permanently broken. At times he looks like he's going to struggle or he will struggle. And if you can get Zuma into the middle of the centre-back and play Suter on the other side of him, it just protects Kurt Zuma a little bit more. So in terms of replacements, I think it'll be Keane. I would love it to be Harry Suter. I just can't convince myself that that's the case. Can we spend that much money on another centre-back? Because essentially, if we lined up with Suter, Zuma and Aguerd as a back three, what's that? 40, 60, about £80 million worth of talent, £80 million worth of players that we've bought there. Would give us a good back three, though, I'll tell you that. Now, Scott McTominay. Declan Rice has been strongly linked to Arsnal at the minute, which makes sense, doesn't it? Why would Arsenal not want Declan Rice? Why would Declan Rice not want to move to Arsenal? They may win the Premier League, they're favourites for the Premier League. Regardless, even if Arsenal finish second, why would Declan Rice not want to go there? They're on the cusp of building, I say cusp of it, they've done it. They've built a really good team. They look like they're building a team which has a few years ahead of them. There's a good age, that squad. It looks like Arteta's building something that's going to win trophies, plural, over the next few seasons. So why would Declan Rice not want to be a part of that? Likewise, Xhaka, Partey, brilliant centre midfield combination, really strong in that area of the pitch. But that's it. After that, when you're looking at the players that can come in and play there, it's not as strong. So getting Declan Rice would be a clever signing from them. As West Ham fans, we're obviously resigned to losing him in the summer. It's just a case of, well, who we're going to go get. The name that's been put around at the minute is Scott McTominay. I mean, it's not quite as good as Edson Alvarez, is it? When we got linked to him, the Ajax defence midfielder, I thought, hello, that's somebody that would be like the top of the list. If you could sell Declan and spend all the money on Alvarez, I think that would be good business for West Ham. And in terms of McTominay, see, I like Scott McTominay. I've always liked him, and it's not because he plays for Scotland. It's not because of that. I've seen him have a couple of stinkers for Scotland, actually, and it's a bit like the Andy Robertson effect. I've never seen Andy Robertson play as well for Scotland as I do for Liverpool. And I know you're going to say, well, he plays for better players, but I've seen Kieran Tierney play better for Scotland than Arsenal. I've seen John McGinn play better for Scotland than Aston Villa. You get my point. McTominay's one of those players where sometimes he's really good, sometimes he goes missing completely. But I do think he gets far too much criticism. I do know why. Is he good enough for Man United? I don't think he is. I don't think so. Ten Hag's doing some good stuff there, which comes as no surprise, really. I think he's a top manager. It would be no surprise to see Scott McTominay leave Man United in the summer, obviously behind Eriksen and Casemiro at the minute. played at the weekend when Casemiro was suspended, so he's sort of third choice centre midfielder at the minute, which isn't a bad thing. But you'd expect Man United to go in for a centre midfielder and really buy a superstar for that area of the pitch. They've done it with Casemiro. Like I said, Eriksen's playing well, but that middle of the pitch needs investment, and Scott McTominay may be the person to fund that, essentially. So how much would it cost? I don't know, 40 million maybe, or something like that. I'm just guessing. But would I take him at West Ham? Well, yeah, I would. But as a replacement for Rice, it's difficult, because I think it depends how the club want to go about it. With the club, either you've got two options. A, you go after someone like Alvarez, which is you just get a direct replacement, you spend all the money on one player and that's it. Or you break that money up into 2 or 3 signings and try and improve the squad in 2 or 3 different positions. And I think Scott McTominay certainly fits into the latter there. Would he be a good investment? Yes. Is he an upgrade on Souček? Yes. Does he get in the West Ham team ahead of Rice and Paqueta? No. But that wouldn't be the situation this summer. Rice would no longer be here. Would he get in a team ahead of Flynn Downs? Well, at the minute, yes. But if we saw more of Flynn Downs, you might be able to reevaluate that answer. I'm taking this this reports with a pinch of salt, because I expect the club, by the way, to have a list of players to replace Declan Rice now. The club have known for a long, long time we're probably going to have to replace Rice in the summer. They're going to have to assume we're going to be in the Premier League. To do anything else would just be stupid. So I expect us to have a list of X amount of players that can come in, play centre midfield, and over the various months we're scouting them, we're picking out our top ones, and that will change. The players' availability between now and then the season, whether it's McTominay, Alvarez or other midfielders, will change. But I wouldn't be surprised if McTominay was on that list as a player that might be available. And in a weird way, before it used to be Leicester City. Remember when Leicester, I say remember, you will, but Leicester won the league obviously and brought in Kante, Mahrez, and you thought, how the hell have they found those players? And then it was a case of whenever Leicester got, for about a year, whenever Leicester got linked with someone, it was like, well, he must be a bloody good player then. If Leicester City want him, he must be good. It's getting a bit like that with Newcastle at the minute with me. I'll be honest, it's me that's doing it, nobody else. I must confess, when I see Newcastle linked with a player, I'm like, he must be good. He must be good for Newcastle, because look at their purchases under Howe with Dan Ashworth there as well. I think they're impressing, and Newcastle being strongly linked to Scott McTominay, so it's almost convinced me even more, not that I needed anyone to, that Scott McTominay is a good player. So yeah, would really like him at West Ham. So that's the latest transfer rumours. Like I said, with Terem Moffi, the bids are still in. We're just negotiating, I think, or we're waiting to have the bid rejected. But Marseille's now in the running. But seen the other day that En-Nesyri could go to Nice, which will block Moffi going to Nice, which will be interesting. But yes, 8 days to go. Next Tuesday the window closes, and next Tuesday night we've got our transfer deadline show. We've got a couple of top guests lined up already. I say a couple of lined up. I've had provisional yeses from a couple of top guests, which I'm looking forward to getting on. We'll be live for 2.5 hours. I'm really looking forward to it, actually. We'll be doing giveaways, we'll be interacting with live chat. Should be a damn good show. So it'll start at 8:30 or 9 o'clock next week, and it'll run through till 11 o'clock. So hopefully next Tuesday, if you're free in the evening, make sure you come back and join us.